We are back. I'm back. We're back. Another week of Boo Hurt, another week of melees and armor combat. Beer Battle Thoughts is back for another episode. Did I have an episode last week? No, I did have an episode last week about Dragon Con. I remember. I remember now. We're back with another episode, back with another beer, back with another episode, back with new guests. I'm liking this whole two guest thing. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. That's the guys from Arizona Armored Combat Academy. So let's you guys let you guys introduce yourselves for this week, starting with Rick. Rick, go for it.
All right. My name's Rick Tom. I've been doing armored combat for almost 4 years, I think. Now, I know you and I have hit each other several times. I don't think we ever hung out afterwards,
No.
but we definitely have punched each other in the face at least a few times. I got started with the sport through Simon. We have a mutual friend. They hooked us up. Simon was looking for more people for his team, and that's how I got there. And that's where I met Dan. Go, Dan. Go.
I'm Dan. I've been involved in armored combat since about 2017. Was on the 2018 ACL national team in Scotland, and then after that, a few years down the road, just decided working with get regular basis on training and everything like that, and so we decided to make our own gym and created the Armored Academy of Arizona. So
nice. Before we get too far into me questioning you guys about Arizona Armored Combat, we're talking about some other things. Of course, I'm drinking a beer. I'm drinking Barry. Yeah, I'm gonna say Barry. That's what I'm gonna say. I don't know. Barry, whatever. We got it. A splendid Scottish ale, high hops, 6.6 ABVs. Scottish ales. So that's what I'm drinking. I know, Rick, you said you can't really drink like that, but I know, Dan, you got something to drink, right?
yeah, I got a Seven Waterfalls red wine. That's what I got right now. Washington red.
Nice. So you guys have been around the sport for a long time, right? You got a good amount of time. You guys know some of the old guard people. I like to say old guard. I'm not saying because you guys are old. I'm just saying you guys have been around for a long time. I've only been in the sport 2.5 years now. Yeah, 2.5 years, something like that. Not that long, so I'm far removed from some of that old stuff that happened. But we're not going to go too far in that. But I do want to ask you guys about Arizona Armored Combat Academy. I've only heard I know we've crossed, like you said, Rick. We've met each other a couple times here and there, on the field, but I haven't really heard much about it outside of once in a blue moon. Like, oh yeah, that does exist. So sometimes it's out of sight, out of mind. But tell me a little bit more about Arizona Armored Combat Academy.
Yeah, so it started off with we wanted more people for our team, and that was that was our motivation. So we had a few people, but we wanted to make more. So we got organized somewhat. Before that, we were doing the pretty typical go to a park and get together, that kind of thing.
We actually were practicing in my garage.
Yeah.
We started.
So we ended
in my
up
garage. So go on.
Yeah. So we ended up we sublet from a HEMA school that has a physical location, an actual gym, and we were subletting like a tiny little room off to the side for real cheap from them, and then they grew. But we were growing too at the same time, so we could slowly bring people in, get a few more people. We can start charging, a little bit of money to help pay for rent and that kind of thing. And so we grew a little bit, and then they got a bigger space, and we went with them. And then we could get a few more people, and then now we're in a actually pretty nice space. It's almost done being expanded. It'll be 6,000 square feet when it's done. It'll be pretty similar to what Nashville has going on over there. We have a whole room that has a permanent list indoors with air conditioning, which is a big deal in Arizona.
Yeah.
And so, because of that, we've been able to advertise a little bit. We've been able to get some people going, and having a gym that actually looks like a martial arts gym. It's set up. There's equipment. It's professional. Professional looking at least. When people come in, it doesn't seem like some esoteric, weird thing that's going on. It's a organized, professional looking kind of martial arts thing, and then people can participate in the competitions and everything. Um, I have a background in Krav Maga. I'm a first degree black belt. I still practice. I train with police and military and all that kind of stuff. I was never in the service, but I do train with local law enforcement, special agencies, foreign militaries, all that stuff. Dan, he has a background in law enforcement, and so very structured and that kind of thing as well. A lot of combat training. We have a few other people on our team that are athletes, wrestlers, that kind of thing. So we get lots of nice, diverse backgrounds from either the martial arts world or the athletics world, that kind of thing. And we travel everywhere we can to learn more about what the top teams are doing and how we can do that too, and make our people better, more competitive. And so that's kind of, we started off from, we just want to pay the rent, and we still just want to pay the rent.
Yeah.
But things have been growing, and as we get bigger, the draw starts coming along a little bit more.
What's your guys' class structure? What's your guys' schedule and class structure like?
Yeah, we do Monday, Thursday, Friday, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m., and that is all soft kit. We don't put on armor for that part of the week. And then on Sunday from 12 to 2, we armor up and actually do it. And the way we run it is we will have a theme for the week. So maybe on Monday, we decide we're going to do a type of throw. We're going to do some kind of judo, right?
Yeah.
So on Monday, we will go through that throw. We'll do it slow. We'll go step by step. We'll break it down, how to do it, and we will practice it. We have wrestling mats and everything like that. We throw those out. We can practice this throw. We can practice it against the list. We can practice it out in the field, whatever. But we practice that throw bit by bit. And then Thursday is our conditioning day. So we will do essentially CrossFit, but we will implement the same thing. So you may be doing box jumps and burpees and on the battle ropes and hitting the tire with a hammer, and then you go get in a bear pit and you're just working the throw that we've been going over this week. So people will give you what you need to set up that throw. You work that throw, or maybe we'll just wrestle, for that. But that's like worked into the thing. And then after that, maybe you go hit the pell with an axe or a sword or something like that. So we integrate everything. Fridays we work on dueling formats, so maybe longsword or pole arm or pro fight, or whatever. We'll pick one. Usually we try to pick one that works with whatever we've been training. So a judo throw would work with pro fight. So we'll work on pro fight. We'll do rounds of pro fight in soft kit. In the list with the wrestling mats down and everything. And then Sunday we put on the armor and we do it for real now in the armor.
Gotcha.
That's kind of how we run our thing.
That's cool. No, that's very similar to how we did it at World War Combat Academy. Very similar. Like we'll do, it's usually like 4 days a week. One day is fitness and grappling. So we're working on our fitness. We're grappling maybe a little bit like sparring, pro fight class. Of course, grappling, judo, wrestling, whatever we have to do. Later in the week, kind of follow up the same thing, but they have individualized that for the women's team as well. I'm a dual instructor, so I teach the dual class on Fridays. And then Saturdays is when we kit up, put everything we worked on during the week into practice, and work on melees and then specific drills. And we're drilling specific things with those throws. Dan, are you an instructor too, or are you an instructor, or are you just kind of just part of the team?
I do instruct. I also, Rick is, I would say, is our primary. He's turned into our primary instructor. but I do instruct and assist in that and stuff. I'm just as much of all three of us that are the primary founders, if you will, or the four of us that are primary founders of the Armored Academy. We all instruction together.
So I
So
assume the primary founders are.
We like to do. We'll trade off on Sundays because we also are trying to. We feel that like the future of Boo Herd is also in the. We feel that the future of Boo Herd is in also the youth and bringing people, like training people up into good habits before they actually get into armor. And so we will also take turns in teaching on Sundays as much as.
You're breaking up, Dan.
Yeah, you're a little challenged, Dan. No, he's talking about you. He's talking about some internet issues.
Need more megabytes. So we have a youth league as well. So we train kids 10 to 17 as well. They just use soft kit and they just duel. But we train them in sword and shield and axe fighting as well. We have soft axes that they use. So he was training the kids today, actually.
Yeah,
it's
fun watching those little kids swing an axe around. You're like, one day, kid, you're gonna be great.
Yeah.
I think we had. I think there was a good discussion about doing that at Warlord. The problem is that it's a very tedious thing, right? So it's like insurance and things like that, and then everyone we're all adults. We all have these things that we do. So it's like we have like this finite time, and you need a couple hours for kids. So it's like
Yeah.
We do. We only have one right now, just like one time a week for the kids.
Yeah.
Just for that exact reason.
Yeah.
It also, but we see it as like, you have all these countries like Ukraine and Poland and Belarus and Russia. They're freaking doing this in school as like extracurricular PE time, right? And our vision here at the Arizona Arizona Armored Combat Academy is we really want to have. We see like if America wants to be truly like credible in the sport and on a world level, then we have to train young. We have to get these kids up and running. Otherwise, we're 7 years, 8 years behind or 15 years if you're really thinking about what type of people can make the investment into armor nowadays, right?
Yeah.
You're looking at a good kit, $1,400 and up, right? And you like who can afford to do that right now?
Yeah.
But if you have kids that are invested in it and want to get into it, and you have a system that can feed them into this process that they're investing in themselves, and then we as an academy group and in a bigger picture, a league or a sport group, man, we're actually doing ourselves a favor by bringing people in. It's time well spent and energy worthwhile, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that. I think there's a couple people I know at Warlord. I know we don't typically have them in the armored combat stuff, but I do know we have some youth in HEMA that are doing our HEMA classes.
Yeah.
And usually when they turn 18, we just had I think 2 guys turn 18 when they came over to start to want to try to armored combat, and so we're pretty promote that. I know there's a couple other people, I know. The Wandering Sword guys are doing like some youth classes and things like that, and teaching longsword and buckler and HEMA, and to get them into that. So I think that maybe even there might be some guys out in Florida. I think might be doing something very similar to that too. North, but I know they're doing it. So I know it dabbles here and there. I do agree with you that promoting this even just as an extracurricular activity, and even if it's just an extracurricular activity after school or whatever.
I don't know about you guys, but we get the timid, introverted kids that get bullied, and then they start training, and then there's just something about their demeanor that changes, and they stop getting bullied. They don't get in fights. They're not going around, but just the way they carry themselves, you can kind of tell.
We get a lot of that. We get a lot of those youth interested, and we also get the ones who got into their early 20s and they just never did any team sports,
Yep.
never did anything, but they know they want it.
Yep.
Yeah.
They just never had any team sports or worked out or did anything, things like that. But they really want it, and they want it to like change their lives. Um, and sometimes it works out. Sometimes they, they'll stick it out, and then they do. It helps transform them. And I think some of them that come in, they had a goal, right? It wasn't necessarily to do the sport. Initially, it was to work out, do a team aspect, learn something about swords, do it for like 4 or 5 months, and then okay, yeah, I've got where I wanted out of it. Now I'm kind of like moving on to. They move on. Sometimes they'll go do HEMA, they'll go do Saber, they'll do things. They're just going to get that what I like to call that old-fashioned grit to themselves. I think they like to pick it up. Once they pick it up, then they're like, okay, yeah, I don't want to do this, but I've kind of found that thing I was missing, and now I'm going to go do some other things, and I'm going to take that, which is fine. I think that's it's a tool that they use, and I think that's a great thing. And I think it's something that I think all clubs put out into the community. I think that's something missing just from in general.
Yeah.
So if it helps them,
a big part of it though is you got to have a place for people to go,
Yep.
and the insurance part is easy. Yeah, I mean it's not that expensive. It's very easy to get.
Yeah.
So it's hard to keep. A lot of the carriers are dropping martial arts studios.
Yeah.
I think we got a good one this year. It seems like every year we got to get a new one. It's not hard to do. It's not hard to get. It's just kind of a pain in the butt. But definitely get a place. Like I know there's lots of teams out there. There's lots of clubs or whatever that they're just kind of winging it in a park or something like that. Like,
hey, much respect to
yourself a place.
Yeah, much respect to doing this park. I was watching videos of people doing the park, and when before the Warlords had the academy, they were doing that in the park and like volleyball pits and things like that. It's like, hey, much respect to you guys. If I had discovered sport, I would have been a fan. I would have helped you with stuff, but I'm no way in Texas heat. And you guys, Arizona heat, dry.
Yeah, heck that, no.
Not doing. I'm like, I'll help you guys out. I'll watch. You guys need help with one armor? Do you need guys help doing stuff? But actually doing it, nah, I'm good. I am.
You think about the old nationals that used to happen in Havasu and Arizona, and maybe a quarter of the fighters would be falling out by the end of the second day just because they couldn't maintain it. It was no fault of them. The good physicality, it eats you up.
Right.
And here in our area, just like Texas and Southern California, New Mexico, just the South, in general. Having a location is the difference between becoming a hobby team, if you will, and an actual reputable, credible, competitive team. Honestly, that you have a name, you have a location. That alone builds a sense of self, and mentally, physically, it's like, hey, this is our place, right? Rather than, hey, we're gonna go to city of Mesa and next time the city of Gilbert, it's like, okay, let's kick out the homeless people and the softball players, and then we get the looky-loos that are either think it's cool or not.
Who are the weirdos in the park?
Right.
Oh, those weirdos.
You get connected, but it's only like this sense of like, a car wreck type thing is like, man, is that really true? Like, what is this? It's still, you're still untouchable. Yeah. Whereas when you have a place, you have that, all of a sudden you're legitimate. No matter what, no matter how niche you are, you're legitimate. And all of a sudden you become a thing. And that's what we've seen in our area. And that's what we were going for with this was just, hey, how do we make this sport, which is a valid sport, an old sport, as hard as any other sport that I've played, and make it something that people, even the people that aren't drawn to swords and kind of like the dare I say LARPers, those type folks, but actually the athletes and actually the competitive people that are that have the drive and determination and the willpower to really fight to the brink of the next level, and that's what we're still trying to achieve. And that's what we're trying to get.
No, I think that's a good thing. One thing I also say is that especially when you start working hard, your group becomes cohesive and things like that. Helps me that community, that team. But also one thing that's happened to Warlord since it's like opened up and it's really developed, it becomes a destination place to go train. Right. There's constantly people from all over the country. Oh, hey guys, I got a couple extra days. I'm not doing anything. I'm going to be in Texas. Or I'm going to be in Dallas, or I'm specifically coming here to come for like a weekend, 3 or 4 days, because I'm going to train. Oh, is it pro fight? Yeah, come pro fight. But hey, do you want to come in? We're going to do the pro fight, but also we're going to have team practice tomorrow, and then Sunday we've got some time for you to pickups and training. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Come. So it becomes a place where like, oh, people around the country are going to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to come there because they've got indoors, they got this, they got that. They've got a schedule. They got people come in regularly. Ballpark. How many active people do you have in armor combat on your team?
So Rick, I think we have like 24, 25 people that are on the books, if you will.
Yeah.
And then we have about 12 that come regularly that I would say either, 4 or more times a month.
Okay.
So, and then the other 3/4 of that is, once or twice a month. And then you have that quarter that's on our roster and the day we don't see them.
Yeah, on the roster, own armor. Never
never
anything.
We'll have a lot of that. I think I've been.
We love them, but
yeah,
we'd like to see them more.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a thing. I think even at Warlord, I think probably like close to 20, 15, 20 people. Probably see about 10 of those pretty. I think about 8 or 9 on the Warlord specifically. 8 or 9 pretty regularly.
Yeah.
Mythics probably about same number, 8 or 9 pretty regularly.
That's great.
Mythics with them. So, but then there's probably the other half, once, twice a month, everywhere.
Yep.
But some of it's like it's just life stuff, right? It's like,
totally.
Kid, one person's
right there.
Yeah, two guys are getting married. And man, I can't. Man, I wish if I come in, I'm going to spend money and do this. I'm getting married next year, so I don't know how many classes I'm going to miss next year. So all of these things, life stuff, right? People.
Honestly, that's really good. So I still I'd still do Krav Maga, right?
Yeah.
And the studio where I train that at, they've got hundreds of people, and there's in the lower level you'll get maybe 20, 30 people that show up quite a bit, and out of hundreds. And then at the very high level you get very few people who show up a whole lot.
Yeah.
And most people don't make it up to the high level, and I kind of suspect the Boohurt people, the people that get into it, they sought this thing out, because if you don't seek it out, you don't know it exists. And that's I think probably the biggest hurdle the sport faces right now today, is that it's this beautiful diamond in the rough that nobody knows about. And if in order to know about it, you have to already know about it, which is not a good thing for the future.
And if you take a look at it, and the reason to prove that is like if you take a look at the top 3 or 4 teams, and I'm talking about 3 or 4 teams across ACS, AMCF, HMB. I don't really know that much about ACW. I know like a couple of teams, I know a couple of people. But even if you include those, let's say you talk about the War Pigs or the Grizzlies, even if I said them, or the Outlaws or San Jacinto, things like that. If you look at the top 4 or 5 teams, it's those teams that have that core unit of 5 to 10 people who are there all the time. You have Warlords, Cerberus, Executioners. You talk about even on the West Coast. You talk about if you talk about like the War Pigs, even San Jacinto's like top 4 teams. Talking about Nashville. Nashville's I think they finished 4th last year. They're training. They've got a handful of people that are just there all the time. Constantly. Consistently over for at least the last 2 years. And they've all claimed, consistently the top 1 through 5 spots constantly. And you see the other teams that practice, and I think Danielle made from Cerberus made a comment about that. He made like a tweet, a post on Facebook that I guess some people liked and some people didn't like, but he was like, hey, if you want to crack if you really want to be, like you were saying, a hobby team or a recreational team, and you want to be a consistent team, and you want to crack that top 3 or top 5 spots, being a weekend warrior in the sport isn't really going to cut it, right? It's not going to cut. You hop in armor every 2 weeks, once every weekend, or once a weekend, or once every 2 weeks. That's not really going to cut it. Those top teams are going to fly by you, even those teams that don't have as much experience as you are just going to fly by you super fast, and we've seen it happen, right? So get it cut super fast. So that's just one of those things that changed the sport. My question for you guys though is, you guys have been in the sport for a while. Uh, what is, and we'll start with Dan. What is the biggest difference even in the sport, like of the top teams or some of the teams are doing, or some of the things you've seen that are the biggest difference versus maybe like the old ACL days versus now, like as far as technique and people who are actually active in fighting?
I think that the mentality shift from athleticism versus is the biggest shift that I'm seeing. You'll get from what I saw when I first started, it was a lot of people were they were double dipping from and this may be an unpopular opinion, they're double dipping from like the SCA world and those worlds, and very skilled fighters, all that stuff. So I'm not trying to besmirch them in any way, but in the last 3 or 4 years, I've seen a large shift from that fighting, where it's like, hey, we are hobby fighters and we also just are jacked individuals that are are fit on our own right, to actually adopting a methodology of fighting that is based on tried and true martial arts. I think that's why HEMA is actually pretty practical when it comes to training, because the things in HEMA, at least when you get into like the true like throws and things like that, are very applicable to our style. And then mixing, actually being a mixed martial art from whether it be Krav Maga, Judo, Muay Thai, whatever, those type elements, those martial arts are seeping into our sport a lot more and are being adopted in a functional and historically accurate way, actually, when you really look at it. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that it's come the shift from just prestige to actually athleticism and sport is the biggest shift.
Gotcha. Rick, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, when I first started, it was all about who could swing an axe the hardest, and that was it. That was your winner. Whoever could nail that hip shot with maximum amount of force was going to drop somebody, and that was going to be the end. And so the whole game was one person to hold them, one person to hit them, and you're done.
Yeah.
And it's different now. Like, I did not come from any kind of SCA or any kind of that background. I came from a martial arts background, and I was running out of sparring partners because I hit too hard. And then you get into Boo Hurt, and it's like, yeah, this is great. Let's start doing some martial arts stuff, guys. Like, this is right up the alley. Hand me that sword. I don't know what I'm doing with it, but I can kick. Yeah, we can punch somebody. Let's get somebody on the ground. This will be fun. And the sport has changed dramatically. So it went from hold and hit to run around and try to blindside.
Yeah.
And now it's moving into teamwork, working in pairs, working in 2s or 3s, and trying to set up situations that are advantageous to your side and bad for the other side. And communication, like, nobody ever talked to each other during a fight. Now all the top teams, they're having full-on conversations with each other. They're planning out what's going to happen next.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, it's night and day. It really is. It's very different.
Yeah. I'm not, and I don't think even the Warlords, like, even when they, don't even try to gatekeep that. I think it was one of the things that made the difference for us, is like, oh, we figured out signals and cohesiveness, talking to each other, communicating. Hey, I've got this. I've got this. Hey, I've got this. Before we even start, hey, I want this. I want you guys to go a little bit more aggressive. Hey, you guys this side, take a chill. Hey, I want you to do this real quick. And then we have like these. We kind of have like these cells of people, right? So, for example, let's say you got your rail person, and off rail, we talk about that. That's your 1 and your 2 position, and then there's probably like another third person who's rotating in on that same side. And what we do is like you have 3 or 4 people who are rotating with the same people over and over and over again, and we really don't change it too often, unless it's like somebody injury or somebody can't make a tournament, then that's one of the few times we do change it. But for the most part, you're going to fight with the same 2 or 3 people. Sometimes it's usually like 2. Like, it's, in the same studio, you and 2 other people are constantly working together because you start getting more synergy. You start knowing your communication signals. You start working together. And maybe one side and maybe another side doing the same thing. And you have your team rotating in here and there, here and there, here and there. But you start knowing who you're fighting with. Okay, I know what this person can do. I know what their signature takedowns are. I know what they're doing. They know what I can do. All we need to do is a little short communication here and there. Now we're off to the races. And I think
that's something that we were talking about today in our class or in our lesson, was just like, you have this when you start getting the team mentality versus the us and them, or me and everybody else that's here, right? And it's stop thinking about the ego self and actually like, hey, we are a cohesive unit that is coming out as an actual fighting team.
Right.
You get that, and that's your example is exactly that, is that each other so well, and how each other fights so well, that you just that, hey, if he moves this way, this is my opportunity to do that, and then it works, and you've done it so much together that it just becomes second nature, just like any other professional or semi-professional sport team you'll see.
And the reason why I created this podcast, and I wanted to focus more so this year on, from now on, kind of doing my best to focus on more Blue Herd stuff, is because I have a tendency to watch a lot of people training and things like that, and I'm like, that's interesting. And there's still some of them are still stuck in doing some of the older models of training.
Flat snaps.
Yeah. So, flat snaps are fine because I do them, but I do them in the dual situation.
Right.
There's specific context. I'm not going to do it in melee. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to show certain things. But even then, when they're working, I watch them doing grappling practice and things like that. I'm like, that's an interesting thing. And I really want to promote that. Hey, like, there's so many new resources of free information that are out there. That's probably the best 2 trainers in the world, in my opinion. Craig Ivey and Brett Skinner have put out so many videos, tons of them for free, just saying, hey, that thing we used to do doesn't work. Because here's what's going to happen if you fight an upper echelon team. They're going to just do this, and they're going to know. Yep. And even Craig Ivey's put out so many Facebook videos, and he's showing breakdowns of things. They've offered so many camps. So I think there's a lot of resources out there that people have ignored. But before we I'm going to take a little break. We're going to take a little break here. We're going to pause this conversation for a second, because we're going to do a segment I like to call Celebrity Pro Fight Blue Herd Style Armor Combat. So I've got 2 people here that I'm going to share. I'm going to put my share screen on here. I'm going to share, and I think you guys are going to get a kick out of who I pick this week. Who decides who is going to be my people for Celebrity Blue Herd this week? It didn't pop up. This week I've got Neil Patrick Harris and Anderson Cooper. So let me just here. Let me put their photos up. It didn't come up for whatever reason. So just when I think I've got this thing figured out, it doesn't work. There it goes. There it goes. All right. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna let you guys. Somebody's gonna choose one person, and I'm gonna choose the other, and you guys are gonna advocate. And I'm gonna decide at the end. You're gonna make your case of who's gonna win this Armor Combat Pro Fight. And I'm just gonna decide. Rick, you get Mr. Doogie Howser there, sir. Okay. Doogie Howser, Neil Patrick Harris, and you'll take the other.
All right. It's like lawyering. I need to be a good advocate for my client.
Advocate. So to get background, Neil Patrick Harris is 6 foot. Anderson is 5'10", 170. Anderson is 5'10", 180, and Neil Patrick Harris, based on his length, is 6 foot, 170.
How long do we have to decide?
I'll give you about a minute and a half, 2 minutes.
All right.
Mr. How I Met Your Mother versus the CNN. Is he on CNN? It's CNN, right?
He used to be.
Yeah.
Didn't he get released recently?
I don't know. I don't keep up with that. Just kind
I don't.
I don't know.
I saw him and I was
I
like,
thought
hey,
didn't he go through a CIA academy at one point? Like he has some kind of
I think
background
so.
like
He
that.
does have some
he
sort
has
of
some
background.
sort of martial arts background. Let's take a look.
He may have been instructed at one point.
Yes, he took some Krav Maga lessons.
There we go.
There we go.
Anderson Cooper took some Krav Maga.
That just means he is definitely going to kick Neil
Yeah.
Patrick Harris in the nuts for sure. That's the bread and butter.
Punch to the face, kick in the nuts.
Exactly.
Yeah, but Neil Patrick, he has those jazz hands. He's got those
I know.
feet. He's got those fast
True.
feet. He's got those He's got those quick feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's I think I'm ready to go, Rick. If you're ready to go.
Yeah,
You wanna
I'll
go
try.
first?
All right.
Go first. You can advocate for Neil.
All right. So I think
Everybody
all right. So I'm assuming we have, some time to get ready.
Yeah.
And Neil Patrick Harris, if I remember correctly, is a method actor. So I think he would dive into his role and he would go get some training. I think that he would probably not like wearing the armor. He would not like the physicality of it, but I think he would swallow his complaints and he would knuckle down and do it. And I mean, he, as far as I can tell, he loves his craft. So I do think that he would try to, do the very best that he could do. And most likely, I feel like you could give him, 3 or 4 things that he needs to work on. He needs to get really good at. So like he would, things like get good footwork. Here's a throw that works pretty reliably. Here's a, strike that's pretty good that works in conjunction with that. Things like that you could give to him and he would execute. There's my pitch.
All right.
Looks like a good Sasai person. He's going to hit you with the Sasai.
There you go. I think for Mr. Anderson, I think that he definitely would somebody that would want to have quality armor. I see him in a very flashy helmet of some sort, and he'd really spend his time on his armor. So to that end, I think that he would definitely have a good suit, good, and so he would definitely be, I guess, model it for his fighting style. I think that he obviously seems. I think he's a little older. I think he's in his 50s, so he might have a little bit of stamina issues. However, I do think if I'm going to go off of Rick, what he knew about Anderson taking some CI training, he obviously likes to diversify in his fighting style. So I think that he could probably pull out some tricks that Neil would not be prepared for, and be able to get in there and get dirty with him. And so I don't know. That would be my argument for him. He's serious. He likes conflict. He likes arguing. So he definitely is not going to back down from a fight. So he might be a good fun fight. Long sword, probably something like that.
Yeah, made some interesting. Yeah, that's a hard one.
It is. It's a tricky one.
It's a tricky one. And until now, I had no idea that Anderson did do the Krav Maga until you mentioned it. I was like, oh, let me look that up. Actually, yeah, that's true. I was like, okay. But like I said, got to give him with age. With Neil being a little bit younger, I do believe.
Yeah, I don't know the age.
I don't think Doogie's all that young though.
He's not. Like I think he's in his late 40s.
Yeah, he's like his late 40s, and Anderson's like 52 or something.
Yeah.
So it's not that much different.
I mean, I'm 43. Like,
so
if I can do it, Doogie can do it.
He was on Doogie Howser MD when I was like 8, and he was probably already like 17 at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, that ain't that far though, is it?
I don't know. It was 89 when that was on TV. I don't know.
Yeah, but
89, 90, something like that. It was definitely like really young. Because I remember watching as a kid, but I was like, oh, it's a kid on TV. I'm a kid. He's a doctor.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm failing in life. Okay. I'm gonna give it to I'm gonna give it to Anderson.
Yes.
This kind of laid over like, yeah, he is gonna be a little bit more flashy. He's gonna want to do some tricks. He's gonna want to be more aggressive and be flashy with it. Neil's probably gonna be like, I don't really want to. He's gonna try to do some tricky, Sasai quick trips so you don't touch me, ducking and dodging. But yeah, I definitely see them coming in with like long swords, things like that, just trying to be flashy. Yeah. So I'll go ahead and give it to Anderson. I'll give it to that one. That was
all right.
Awesome.
Good fundamentals can beat flashy.
That's true.
That is usually true. But if you guys,
true.
yeah. So Jerry Logan says Doogie Howser all the way, all day. She said Doogie. Jerry says Doogie Howser all the way. But everybody who's watching this, hey, you guys comment below. I know a lot of people commented about last week's. But yeah, talk about this. Doogie Howser, if it's Doogie Howser or Richard Anderson Cooper, Mr. CNN, or wherever he's coaching at now, I don't know. But
I can see Anderson wearing a helmet that half helmet from freaking the last duel. I can see him wearing that.
Nobody's gonna wear that thing.
Right.
It won't pass AC, Dan.
Yeah.
You can't have it.
I think that, or they'll wear like someone's gonna wear like that griffin that has the gold crown on it. I think. I figure one of them probably wear that. I think one of them is gonna wear like a really nice, like fancy, like half helmet, or like a really, really fancy looking wolf rib that has like extra decorations and paint on it. I'm sure that's definitely gonna be one of those things. But thanks guys for playing along for Celebrity Armor Combat. I probably should put those in the thumbnail from now on, but I just don't. I was always last minute when I decide who it's gonna be. So like you think about it like over the night and things like that. But like I said, we were talking about what the biggest differences you guys have seen. What is something even? Before we go to that, I know that there's a couple tournaments coming up. When's the next tournament that you guys are going to have a team that's going to participate in?
Us as us will be at ACS Nationals. We're the
Blood
Eagles. Yeah, we'll be there.
Because you guys were there last year, right?
Yep. Yeah. I think we win as. Yeah, we win as us. Yeah, we really
Blood Eagles.
I was like, I couldn't remember if it was Blood Eagles or Iron Lions. I was like, was it Blood Eagles? And I couldn't. My mind plays tricks on me, and I couldn't remember which team it was. But it wasn't. You guys were Blood Eagles, and that was pretty.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Do you guys had fun last year? Last year, there was the whole list thing that happened.
Yeah, that was. I think me and Bam Bam were the first ones that just absolutely blew through that thing. But as I understand it, it will not be an issue this year, so I'm looking forward to that.
No, but I do hope to see you guys there.
We will.
I'm sure we'll fight.
I'm glad that Larry's running it. I honestly, I think you could advertise your event as run by Larry, and it would have a greater value. He does a great job.
Yeah, I think there's about the same amount of teams there were as last year. This year, if I remember correctly, I was hoping there were going to be more, but inflation sucks, and I don't know how much you guys' ticket was, but mine was almost double what it was the year before to get there. And so it was like, I think there's a lot of teams that were just like, those inflation.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw that Canada's not coming. I don't think Mexico's coming, but they were going to. I don't know.
They're still registered, so we'll see. They're still registered. I think
they're not on the roster. I'm the captain, so I get to see the roster. I haven't seen them.
I just looked at Larry's original post and with the teams who were registered for it. They were on it, but I shot a message to a couple people like that weren't coming. They were like, they were going to come, absolutely, but then when they were looking at these flight prices, they were like, it's not going to happen. Yeah, so it's too far in. But hopefully, this inflation issue drops soon because it has prevented some people from traveling a lot of the bigger tournaments that they would like to go. So hopefully, maybe by Carnage, but at least by Carnage or IMCF qualifiers. Are you guys going to go to? Are you guys planning on going to the qualifier wherever or whenever that might be?
With IMCF?
We kind of like to.
We're trying to compete to place.
We both kind of had that football yanked away from us a few times now. We're getting kind of tired of it.
Well, hey, don't get me wrong. Hey, I
know you too. Yeah.
There's a couple of individual it's singles, right? I was on Warlords, but like on the melee team, but even for my singles, and there's a couple other people I know that were like singles. Yeah. This is my only time. 1 year, then 2 years, now it's 3 years. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm hoping out hope because I really believe and there's a lot of people who are like this, like if it doesn't happen, this year they're just gonna be like whatever.
I know South America is wanting to kind of fill that gap, and that would be fine. I've been all over South America. I'm a big fan of Argentina. I really like it. I know they put on a thing, last year before. I wasn't able to go, but that's a cool place. Cheap. I mean, the flight might be expensive, but once you get there, it's not expensive to do stuff, move around, eat, that kind of thing. So
I mean, it's one of my goals. I was told my fiance the same thing. I was like, my goals is I have 3 goals. I said, want to fight at a castle. I want to fight in like some sort of world tournament where there's like a bunch of teams from different countries, and I want to beat up a French guy while talking to him in French while beating him up. That's all I want. Those are 3 things.
Righteous goals.
French, and I'm like, I'm learning French because our family speaks French. I'm trying to learn to communicate. I'm learning French, so I'm like, that's step 1. Step 2, just get to a tournament with against a French team. So I can talk trash. Talk trash.
Maybe Quebec.
Yeah, Quebec.
Yeah. I was like, I thought about that. Like,
Does that count for you? I don't know.
I don't know. That really counts. I guess the Scalagrims like host the tournament, but I'm like, I don't even know if any of them actually speak French. I think they live in like Calgary or something. I don't even know. They might live in Quebec. I don't know. But no.
Gotta get the sport bigger, and then people will be demanding that we go overseas.
Yeah,
I think that's the real future of Boo Herd is try to grow it.
Yeah, I think one of the things that came from it, from people getting tired of waiting for all these camps. That's how Dominus started, right? Dominus is like this team of like some of the top fighters around. And they were like, look, we really, and some of those guys are like aging out soon, so they're like, some of them, not all of them, but like they're like, man, all these things were canceled. All these things were canceled. Prime and Worlds and Battle Nations, all these different things. So they're like, all right, we're just gonna go. People who got the budget and some of these top guys were like, all right, we're just gonna go and we'll do it, which I think is interesting. That is fair. I kind of understand why some of them did that. And I'm not even mad at them. I think some people were a little like, well,
they're a great team. They're hard, difficult. Have you fought them yet?
I have not fought Dominus, but 3 people on their team are on the Warlords, and I get my butt kicked by them. I used to get my butt kicked by them regularly, not so much anymore. I keep up actually now. But so Brett Skinner, Craig Ivey, Brennan, and I fought Pete Mose on that squad. I fought Pete, in melees and in pro fights, so Danielle, I've crossed with Danielle Cerberus plenty of times. It's like there's like 1 or 2 people I haven't, like I've profiled Johnny Porter. I've never been in melee with Johnny Porter, but I profiled, Johnny, a couple months ago, back last year.
So they're talented.
Those
guys are all talented. They're fun.
And I've taken losses and victories against all of them at some point, one time or another. So, so it's all good. One thing we did talk, like I said, we talked about what the biggest changes was for you guys. But what's something that even now, outside of stuff we've already talked about, that you would still like to change just nationwide for the sport, and let you guys each try to break that down.
Go ahead. Okay. Have a real league would be great. The way I see it right now, we don't have any leagues. We have these kind of insurance co-ops that moonlight as promoters sometimes, but they don't really promote. They don't promote to the public at large. They promote internally to other fighters, and that's vampirism. that's just eating your own stay alive. We need a real league. So I don't know if you've ever done adult sports. So you sign up, you pay your fee, teams get made, or they can be pre-made teams. And in our case, they would be pre-made. And then the day after registration closes, you get your brackets. You know where you're going, who you're fighting, and all that. You have a season, and then you go do the season, and that's what you do. And now there's you guys. You have a gym. Nashville has a gym. We have a gym. I've heard that there's some other people working on getting gyms that can have a full list that can sell to the public and things. Sell tickets to the public, and that would go a long ways towards making Boo Hurt a legitimate, well-known by the public sport. And I think at that point we see memberships go way up. Also, there would be money in the sport, because right now everybody's trying to get money by charging the fighters. You're charging the wrong people. You should be paying the fighters and charging the public, and the public would come to this. I mean,
Yeah.
how many people, when they say "boo hurt," what's that? I've never heard of it, and you tell them it's football with weapons, and their ears perk up, and they're like, "Well, I like football and weapons. Like, that sounds great. Where do I see this?" And then once they actually see it, there are a few people who won't like it, but there are a lot of people who will, and they may not want to do it. Certainly Dan and I have seen a lot of that. A lot of people are like, "That is amazing. I never want to do that, but I love watching it." And that's a whole industry that has not been tapped into. So I think a real league with real brackets that could be promoted to the public and that kind of thing would be pretty game changer for our sport.
Yeah.
Right now, it's definitely just a labor of love, and that's great, and it's rewarding, and I don't have a problem with that. But I sure think it has the potential to be right on par with UFC or baseball or football or any of those.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's been tried twice, right? I think the ACL had its issue. We're not going to go. Everybody's heard that story.
ACL never tried anything like that.
Well, they were, towards the end, they were like, it was concept. ACS tried it, but unfortunately, ACS didn't have COVID happen, and it just broke down completely. And it was like, all right,
I've never seen someone put something together like this. Yeah. It's always come join our organization. We promise we'll get something going. I haven't seen anything set up like a real sports league. Not yet.
So,
not for this.
So I think that was the concept of what the chapter matches were supposed to be. There were supposed to be chapter matches everywhere, and that was announced, and they did have some, but then COVID happened, and it immediately
depends who you ask. the chapter matches were too designated.
Yeah, they were too heavy. Like I said, I don't really know the whole story about that. Like I said, I came in right when that fell apart anyway, so I don't really know.
Yeah, I haven't seen a league set up like a real sports league yet, and I think that would be a good component. And places like Warlords and Arizona Armored Academy and Nashville, we could all host. We don't have to fight. And if we had money to defray travel costs, then it becomes very cheap. Like hop on a plane, and while teams are out here, we can train. On the other days, but we sell tickets and stuff like that. That would be pretty game changer.
And I agree. Like when I joined this league, I was like, you guys don't charge a registration fee, so you can have paid. I mean, every intramural league or adult fighting league or sport I've ever done, registration fee is like $25 to $50 sometimes. I'm already going there. I need to make sure that it's legit. But anyway, Dan, what's your opinion?
Well, I definitely agree with Rick in that mind. I think we're definitely of the same mind in that. To go a little bit further, kind of and develop this. So I'll kind of go back. When I joined in 2017, I wanted to do this because I wanted to have a sport that I could fight in. I didn't want to play, take on monikers or anything like that. I just wanted to fight, right? And that's what I got for the time. I think now that we're at a point where there's so much there has been historically. I know we're not getting into that, but historically there's been so much infighting. And just support the league, whatever that league is. I don't care what it is. Where everyone's guilty of it. Okay, in my opinion. Yeah. That because of that, we've sacrificed the time to build ourselves as a national team USA versus this league versus this league. And we're not that. We're fighting over beans, when it really comes down to it on that end. So to go to productive conversation here, like I really think that focusing on creating an event, and I like the league idea where it's actually like, hey, your team is an organized team. This is where you go here, here, and here. Everyone knows what's expected of them. Everyone knows what's going to happen. Everyone's on the same page. We see a lot of this where it listed in our own company here. I mean by company as a group, is that it's like, hey, which one are we going to go to this weekend? That tournament or this tournament or that tournament over there or this tournament over here or that tournament over there? And it's like, holy crap. Like if everyone was just like the tournament, think about what type of thing we could put on as a group.
That's what I mean by the vampirism, right?
Yeah,
so,
it's vampire. It's we rob Peter to pay Paul on these in our own sport here.
Yeah.
And so and with that as well is that when we think about what people want from a top level tournament, if you will, no one wants to go to a football game and watch 8 hours of football. No one wants to see that. I don't care how much of a football fan you are.
Yeah.
I'm done. Get enough drinks in me. I'm tipsy. Frick, I'm going to either get kicked out of the stadium or what, right? We're done. Yeah. And so we need to, like, I think as tournaments go, this type of structure where you're actually like, all right, hey, you know what? Arizona is being hosted by, let's use Warlords here since we're here. All right. Hey, Arizona's being hosted by the Warlords. We're going to be fighting Florida. Okay. It's a good middle ground. Tickets are cheap. Get to Houston or, wherever, and everybody can get there. Perfect. And we fight. And it's, round robin, whatever. A quick 1 hour. All of our singles are fought. All of our melees are fought. You as the Warlords can throw an hour and a half long tournament that keeps everyone's attention. Everyone is just on the edge of their seats watching fights, loving it, and they can go home. And everyone else here
after an hour, before their ass is all the way asleep.
Yeah. We as fighters have been able to put out everything because we're not like, holy crap, we're going on hour 6 and all I want to do is just hug this dude to make this over yet. Someone gap me, please. I want to fall.
Yeah.
It's like
break my armor so I can quit.
Right. And so you're going to get top performance, top output by fighters. You're going to get top reception by the public at large. Mm-hmm. You're going to get good venues. And it's going to be done. And then it's going to be, hey, you know what? We can actually follow people. People can follow it.
That's the big thing.
That
is the fans.
So it's impossible to follow the Blood Eagles if the Blood Eagles are fighting in Nashville this week and half of us are fighting over in New York the same weekend. It's like, oh, which one am I? Only one of these is
how much time do you waste chasing cats trying to get your fighters on board with we're going to go do this tournament or that tournament? And then think about it from a fan perspective. You just have to be in the right place at the right time to see something like this. But if there was a repeatable scheduled thing that they could tune into or that they could go show up to, they would.
We could put publicly that they know so the fans can plan, hey, I want to go to Houston this weekend because that tournament and that fight is going to be awesome.
I definitely agree with that. I think one of the few exceptions to the rule with that long format is Dragon Con. And I don't know if you've ever.
It's once a year, though.
It is once a year, but what I will say.
Dragon Con,
like it is Dragon Con, but I will say.
Some redneck in, somewhere is not going to go to Dragon Con, but he may love the sport.
There are people who go to that tournament every single year, and they found teams that they like. Like I was super surprised when we got announced. Like when I was captain of the Knights of Connor this time, and because we went last year, how many people remembered us, came back, like bought shirts, and were like, what? Like already had pre-made stuff. Like
that's cool and all, but did you ever hear Dragon Con before you started doing Boohurt?
I'm sorry.
Did you ever hear Dragon Con before you started doing Boohurt?
Yeah, I'm one of those convention people, so I already knew about it. But but as it's a very small niche. I'm just using it as a small example.
Yeah,
but I do agree with you 100% of it.
Having the national championship at Dragon Con would be really cool.
Yeah,
that could be an hour long. Like one, I know they do all day for the Boohurt, but having 1 hour to settle the national championship and then the rest of the time for fun would be really cool.
I think that's something that needs to happen, and I agree with you guys.
Well, think about if you look at like NBA, right? You have NBA like NBA regular season, right? And then you have, there's going to be an expo here. There's going to be a 3-point championship there, slam dunk championship in this city, and you're going to have people from each of these teams traveling singly to go and perform at these things, and And yeah, Dragon Con is a good event. I personally I was set to go to it, and then COVID happened. That was the one I wasn't able to go to because of that. So there I am. So I mean, okay. Ignorance is bliss on this one. But I'm thinking like just from past tournaments that I've been in, the 2-day, 3-day tournaments that I've gone to, unless it's like IMCF or HMB, when you have like champion, like the national like teams from each of the teams, it's like you really don't have a draw. At least in America, you're not going to have that draw yet until you build this. And the
nobody
culture
knows
in Europe,
right? I think
the culture in Europe is way different than the culture in America right now.
Yeah,
we are competing against MLB.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is like, and what I mentioned before is poor marketing to outside people, because everybody's like it's internal or it's people who are very adjacent to the sport. So FDA, LARP, foam fighters, HEMA people, they know about it, they come to it, or people who are related to people who are doing that, they know about it. Then you kind of have to be somewhere and go, oh, what's that? We can go over there and find it. But I think it does need someone to take the reins to say, hey, okay, the marketing to the outside public and creating a thing to do that. You were talking about like a regular season, and I was kind of thinking in my head as you were talking about that, when could a regular season, what are like the optimal months in my head? And I kind of said in my mind, I was like, because of how expensive it is just to travel for the sport, even outside of because you never know how the compensation for each team is going to work out anyway. Right. You're going to say, what are the optimal times? You're going to say like, if you guys would agree with me or disagree, like you say like January to like June, there's like a month break, maybe a month and a half break. You come back between like the last 2 months.
I tell you what, man, our air conditioning runs every day of the year. Yeah. It's always the same temperature.
Well, the only reason I say that is because between February and October, really. So I say November, December, January, holidays, family stuff. Nobody.
I think it could definitely be made in such a way that it really could be a nice thing for some people. So, for example, anyone in the Midwest that's sick and tired of January and they're ready to see something other than gray and white, coming to Arizona or Florida or something like that, where it's the low is 50, they would probably enjoy a little break like that. So that would be a good time to have teams from those areas come out. And then for us, we would love to go somewhere cold in the middle of the summer. That'd be great. Yeah. So it definitely could do that, but you wouldn't be able to make a season that was 12 months long. You would have to curtail it. And this is all stuff that could be figured out in a meeting between gym owners and stuff like that, how to put something like this together so that it can be done. I know the travel sucks. Some areas are better than others. Like Phoenix is really easy to get into. We're a major hub for several airlines, like Southwest, for example, and it's pretty cheap to get here. But we'd see what kind of money we have, But again, that's something. Those are details that would have to be hashed out later somewhere else.
We're having this discussion because we're putting out to the universities are good discussions to have, and repeat it because I'm sure like as we had these conversations on this podcast, and I'm sure that other teams and other people have had. You guys have brought up some things that other guests have had, and I've heard in like just other conversations of just tournaments and things like that, man. Some of these same things you guys talked about. So that's why I think this podcast is good, because I don't want to. I never want to be that person that's like, you're having that whole debate in the comment section on Facebook, because our whole sport lives on Facebook, and there's the dissension and all the comments and the different opinions, which is fine to a certain point. But let's kind of organize it in some sort of thought, give you like an official outlet to say, okay, here's some of the continuing opinions, and here's what they are.
Yeah, it makes something cool, and there's some money coming in. People will want to do that,
right?
For sure.
So before we get too long, we're coming too close to the show. But before I do, that's why I always do this thing, regardless of who's on the PS. If you could create, because I got to tie it back into my beer thing. If you guys could create any beer, alcoholic, non-alcoholic, with any ingredient in the world, it can be honey and octopus flavor. I don't care what it is. Be it alcoholic or non-alcoholic or whatever it was. What kind of beer would you create if you could? what would be the alcohol level, and then what would you name it? Starting with Dan.
Oh man. Okay. So beers are a little hard because I'm more of a spirits guy
Yeah,
myself.
yeah, you can make it taste like I've got a beer the other day. It was a Scotch ale, but I've also had one that was whiskey, aged in whiskey rum. It was a whiskey beer. So
Oh yeah,
anything you want.
No, that's good. It's good stuff. Um, so I'm a big fan of mead, and I'm also a big fan of vodka, gin. I like all of them. Let me get. Who am I kidding? But let's say I would say that I would want something that's either a truly like they always say it tastes like caramel, and I've only had one beer one time, and it was shoot, what one was it? It was a stout actually out of California, and I tell you what, it tasted like English toffee, and it was beautiful. It tasted like the first time. The second time, it didn't taste like that though, so that was the problem.
Yeah.
But something that tasted truly like an English toffee beer, that would be good. I made a drink I call it the Thin Mint, and it was truly tasted like an Andes mint, and that was mint and vodka that I made up one time. So I think that's what I call. So let's say I would do that's what I would do for my drink, something to that effect.
Okay. Nice. Rick?
Well, I can't drink alcohol anymore as I have gout, but once upon a time I was a world-class champion beer drinker. I could hang with the Belgians for a while, and I also brewed beer, and I used to make one that was a crystal Weiss, which is like a Hefeweizen, like a Franziskaner Hefeweizen, that kind of thing. Except that it's clear. It's clear all the way through, and it has a very strong coriander flavor, and I really like that one. So if anyone brews beer and wants the recipe, I got it.
We'll probably have to ask you for that later. Right?
Give it a whirl. Yeah.
Yeah. But, what would you name it? What would you name it?
Oh, I don't know. I'm tempted to be like Cristal. Just give it that, because it's clear. It's almost it's very light. It's lighter than Bud Light when you get done with it.
All right.
And it came out to about 6% alcohol.
Oh, yeah, I might have to hit you up for that recipe, because I definitely am working on that.
All right.
Also, I like to drink my own beer every now and again when I can feel like I don't have time to make it.
Do you brew your own?
Yeah, I've done 2 batches, and I've drank all of them. All of it. I give like one to my friend. So me and my friend who used to be the co-host of the show, Matt, we kind of get together and we'll brew a beer, and then we'll have it at his house. Then we'll crack it open and drink it, and then we forget to share it with other people.
Do you do full mash, or are you using I can't remember what it's called, the concentrated malt stuff, whatever?
Oh, we're using concentrated malt.
Oh, okay.
It's easier to get for us.
Yeah, yeah. You got to get a cooler and do a project. I'll take a picture. Oh, I can't get to it. Well, if I do, I'll take a picture and show you my mash tun.
But before we go, I also want to give you time, you guys. I know you guys have a YouTube channel, so I want you guys to let you guys time to plug that.
It's stupid, funny, and it's short. It won't waste your time. We everywhere we go, we get a handful of dirt and talk about it, and we don't know anything about what we're talking about, so it's really great.
Yeah, I put the link in the comment section, so anybody's watching this, you guys can always click to the comment section and click it. There you guys can watch all their hijinks and what they talk about. But before we end the show, as you guys know, we've come down to the last sip, and I will. So before I get to that, I want to thank you guys. I know you already finished yours, but I want to thank you guys so much for being a part of the podcast. Like I said, I think these conversations about about the sport and what's going on in sport, what people are doing, and what their aspects are, what their hopes and dreams, and what they think their futures are, and things like that are a good part of the sport, and what it's going to be to have those conversations and get it out there to make change. I think it's always good. And I want to thank everybody watching Beer Better Thoughts, because like I said, we're slipping on some drinks on a Sunday evening before the work week starts and talk about our favorite sport and enjoy a relaxing drink. But with that, we're going to do the last sip, beer prayer. Let me someone my mic. our lager, which art in barrels. Hallowed be thy drink. Thy will be drunk, I will be drunk, at home as it's in the tavern. Give us this day our foamy head, and forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who would spill against us. And lead us not into incarceration, but deliver us from hangovers. For thine is the bitter, the lager, forever and ever. Amen. Salud. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, guys. Thanks so much.
Salud.
Cheers.
All right.
See you later.
Take care, y'all.